Greetings. Welcome back to another session, Dorsey's Resource. First, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. If you need to seek a professional lawyer, consultant, securities broker, financial advisor, or whomever, please do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my thoughts and opinions on the topic. With that being said, all rights are reserved. Now, I want to thank everybody for joining me. This is going to be a follow-up video about the so-called secret TDA accounts at the FRB. I'm going to go over, this video is going to be a commentary. I'm going to go over some sensitive information. Please bear with me there. It's going to be action-packed. I've got a lot of stuff to cover, and the basis of this video is I'm going to present, or at least attempt to present, evidence, but I've got to use a lot of sources because there's a lot of newbies, people who don't understand this information. So it's like I'm giving a 2 or 3 month course in a matter of less than an hour. I'm just going to give you guys like a crash course. I'm going to condense the information, but as you all can see, you'll have the websites and stuff that will equip you with the skill sets to be able to do the research on your own. Now, without further ado. Okay, I'm back. Just to recap, this particular routing number on the left hand side, that 018 number is a separate account for IRS refund checks for whatever purpose. However, that particular routing number is still issued by the American Bankers Association. Once again, that has a connection with the Federal Reserve and the other institutions, whether it be the Federal Reserve banking system. They had certain treasury information on their website to show there is a correlation, and the number to prove they already have, believe it or not, behind the scenes, every U.S. citizen's account numbers through your individual master file. What's the main number that they asked for example, and this is public domain. I typed this in on the internet, by the way. This 1040V payment voucher for certain types of tax payments. You see in this upper left hand box and in this corner in the middle, they ask for your SSN number to go on this instrument. Now, going back once again, this is public domain, and I did give a disclaimer. This is going to be in the beginning of the video and the end of the video with the use of the Fair Use Act. You have the right to do commentary and critique. If you go on Yahoo, I typed in old Social Security cards, and you guys can clearly see these are images people have uploaded many years ago. These people appear to be deceased or whatever. Some of these are examples, but notice at the top it says account number. And if you go to some of the older formats, when I was watching a video from Willow Green song, when she showed did a video that she had a Social Security card from her grandfather that passed away or died some years ago, and she showed it said account number on it. So why, you have to ask on the newer version, why did they take that off? And when the gatekeeper did their video, they didn't want to show you these other images or whatnot. They just showed you a basic one, but on the newer cards, you have to ask the question, why did they take this part off, account number? See, these were the older formats. So, because there was a lady out there I saw in the comment section was a troll, because birds of a feather flock together, and she was trying to say that the SSN, the numbers on the front, were not an account number. It's also not only an identification number, but it's also an account number as well. This proves that. It told you right on the original cards years ago, but you know why they took it off? Because they want to hide it from you. Because remember, this stuff is private. When people talk about these secret and private accounts, and public and private don't mix. So, you know, just giving you all a point of reference, this is public domain. I looked up, you know, right online. You guys can clearly see. And I'm going to go over some other reasons why this particular type of account exist. Let me look for some other information. You have to ask the question on this guy on YouTube does the videos where he shows you where he gets a check back for his bill. And when you open up, let's say, an interest-bearing checking account, I had one years ago with Bank of America. They sent me a 1099 INT form. There's many different types of 1099 forms. I just found out a friend of mine stated to me he was unaware of the different types of 1099 forms. You know, because they keep this information, well, very secretive on many things, but certain things in the public, they want you to be conditioned and locked in to the public and brainwashed. They don't want to tell you about the other stuff out there, which is a form of deception because we didn't give them permission to use these accounts behind our back. They want to act like that we're the ones committing the fraud when they've been fraudulently using these accounts behind our back and they didn't ask permission, and then they're blocking our own access from being able to use our exemption account. And then you look at what Wells Fargo did with creating 2 million fake accounts, and they're having to pay a settlement for. How did they do that? When you go open up a bank account, you have to give them your social security number. Then you look at what Equifax had to hack, and these are things done on a monstrous level, and they treat the average individual who is trying to access their private exemption like crap, and you're made to look like a conspiracy theorist or a liar. But as you guys can clearly see from the information that I am going over, that is not the case. And I'm going to go to this particular document right here. This is an older document I read some years ago online. I'm going to see if I can locate the area dealing with the IRS. I see some stuff dealing with the TTNL account. But this document was, this material was written by an investigative journalist, Barton Butts. I'm not sure where he's at these days. He helped contribute to the writing of the Cracking the Code manual that came out years ago. It was like a precursor to the Redemption Manual. When this information was really hard to find, he and other individuals did a lot of research to help bring this information into existence, because it was very well hidden. I had a subscriber that I had a great conversation with previously, where I had to explain this information. She was asking, well, where do you start from when you study this type of information dealing in the redemption movement? And I had to explain there's not really a step like A, B, and C to really start from. It's very complex in a sense. Then again, it is, but then again, it's not. And you have to understand this type of information is very complex, but this was brought about through investigative journalists and activists and people researching this information. They pieced things together, and then books were written off of it from the notes that were compiled, information that was shared back and forth with various people. I've even played a critical role in the movement throughout the years. I've been knowing about this information since as of 2003, but I didn't attend my first meeting until 2004, actually. But I'm going to read some of this, go over some of this information, because it's a lot that's dealing with the BC. But I was looking for the section that deals with the IMF. There was a portion in here that covers this. Okay, here's the one section. It says, one IRS master file I saw lists an IRS treasury bond in the amount of $742,500 that the individual requester knew nothing about. However, all the profit generated by this investment between the birth and the death of the living, breathing man or woman is kept by the state. Okay, that's not the part. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down to here, this section. It says, I have seen IMF, the IMF stands for International Monetary Fund, lists commercial activity, and that's connected to the World Bank, because remember, your birth certificate is not as the individual, this gatekeeper. I was watching a YouTube video where this individual was mentioned, and they were trying to show a justification that the birth certificate is not a bond. However, okay, I'll give them kudos. Even though it's not maybe construed in the particular bond format, it is a security instrument, and our birth certificate is being pledged as collateral, where they create bonds off of it. This I do know uh, for a fact. And you can look up even Druanna Johnston's videos. She gives an excellent breakdown into the history. It is a security instrument, key word. Reason why people go into certain types of fields to get their what's called securities license, a broker's license, that deals into different areas. Like when people go to become a stockbroker, they have to get one of the highest licenses. I hear that test is very difficult to pass, the Series 69 license. Just like lawyers, they have to pass the bar exam to study this information. I'm giving you all a point of reference, a point of origin. So this is not conspiracy theory. You know, stop believing those gatekeepers and they're sending those memos out to spook you all and scare you. You just have to connect the pieces. And I'm going to scroll further down. See if I can find the area of the Treasury tax, the TT&L department. Now, I was told by the first individual I allowed to contact me through my YouTube channels. I normally, you know, I'm very booked. I receive a lot of inquiries. I don't have the infrastructure yet to speak to everyone. I would like to, and then I'm also attempting to get out of this 9-to-5 job until I can supplement my income, where I would be able to therefore assist many more people on a greater magnitude. So just please keep that in mind. But I don't want to pontificate. A few financial institutions, it says in this section, do not have TTL accounts. That stands for Treasury Tax and Loan Accounts. The individual, reason I brought the individual up who was one of the first to contact me that I allowed to reach out to me in person, he stated to me he worked in New York for the New York Stock Exchange. He was similar to a broker. He was a facilitator, and he worked with transactions in the billions range, very high amount, very high figures. They were up there, and he stated to me how this is done on an international scale. So there was things that I learned from him, but my experience overall still gave me a very solid foundation where I was able to impart a lot of info into him, because a lot of people think they come into this information, this movement, that they're going to be experts and things are just going to flow smoothly, that it's going to be a silver bullet. Then they find out that these gatekeepers have put obstacles in the way. Certain institutions and people in the private sector have steadily tried to slow things down or make things difficult for people. Now, there are people that have tried to help and assist throughout the years, but keep in mind that there's a lot of the reason that people are told that this information doesn't exist or is not real, because this information is kept on a need-to-know basis. It's private. So I'm gonna see if I can find. Well, he was stating to me that every banking institution, even local ones, had a TT&L department where they would process like negotiable instruments or whatnot. But I just wanted to show that this document right here, it goes into like the history. I've read this a long time ago. This was on other sites. This site just included it on their site for reading material. You still might be able to find this. Scribs Online took a lot of the documents that used to be for free that people could download, and they turned it into like a subscription service. So I don't know who was behind Scribs, but a lot of those documents on there were free. I had a lot of printouts still from years ago. I read through a lot of documents when I first got involved in this movement. I used to go up to my college university that I attended at the time, and actually I was after I graduated, because I had an alumni card, lifetime membership, and I would do a lot of reading and research on their computers and printing out documents. So that's how I gained a rock solid foundation, and that's important. I would say one of the most important things to do in the very beginning before you can get discharge debt or bills and stuff, because they set some traps in place. If you don't know what you're doing, it's the most important thing is to lay the groundwork, the foundation. As my sensei used to tell me in martial arts, you need to get the basics down first before I start teaching you the advanced moves. You also have to condition your body. That's why special forces, before they even get to that level, they have a trial like for the Navy SEALs, and then previously they were already servicemen. They had to go through boot camp or some type of basic training. So you have to condition yourself. So in order to condition yourself for this type of information, in my opinion, I would recommend you need to do a lot of reading to lay the groundwork, so you will be able to connect the pieces together. And some of these terms, the terminology is well hidden. Like up here says debtor straw man. There was a document in the court system. It's referred to as the enlangus. It's an artificial creature I won't spend that much time on. I heard a story years ago where a judge was trying to help someone out, a so-called secured party creditor who was in a situation in court, and they kept saying my straw man, and the judge was telling them, are you referring to the decedent, the decedent estate, because you're listed as dead as alive? I won't go into all the details. You listen to if you pull up Tammy Pepperman, her videos, if they're still on YouTube, there's a lot of stuff has been removed. Type in Tammy Pepperman. She had a lot of real good information dealing with the straw man being the voice of the estate, or the how you're listed as a dead person. They created another entity. Well, in the court system, they use what's called legalese. They speak in a different terminology, and that is the enlingus, which people refer to as the straw man. So because someone's called you a conspiracy theorist or say, oh, you're talking about that straw man stuff, and that's crazy. No, here's the point of reference. Legally, you have a legal fiction, a legal person, legally. Please understand that. So I'm showing you, giving you a point of reference. Matter of fact, really quick, I'm going to go to pull up the res. This is another definition. There was a sister I was speaking with down in Virginia, where her son got caught up on a gun charge, and she was telling me how she was trying to help him out within the court system. And there's a difference between statutory and non-statutory. And she went in there, and because going in the court trying to argue with them is a losing situation unless you're very well studied, and you really have to know what you're saying, what you're doing. Because it's like the example I like to give to people, I gave my friend this example recently. It's like, say you play basketball, you're the visiting team, and you're going into somebody else's home stadium or their home crowd. They're going to have the home court advantage because they're going to have the energy of the crowd cheering them on. The refs might be helping fix their games, like what they did to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2016 championship when they suspended Draymond Green and got help from the NBA. It's like you're not going to be successful. You have to be the best of the best, very skilled with your vocabulary level. And by no means, this is not legal advice. I'm not a legal expert. I'm just sharing this as a courtesy from my experience and from speaking with other individuals. If I'd have known, I would have gone definitely into becoming a lawyer years ago, or a paralegal. Also would have wanted to become an accountant as well. So I probably would have attempted to become a tax attorney, knowing the information that I know now. But the reason I'm sharing this story, her son, she was trying to help a system, and she told the judge, she stated to the judge, she said, Your Honor, I have power of attorney over him, XYZ. And the judge simply said, shit failed, shit failed, shit failed. They're speaking in code. What is the res? Let's deal with the res. The res is a dealing with, I'm going to look at the definition. It says a thing, for example, in a suit involving a captured ship, the seized vessel. Seized vessel, and the judge said ship failed. What is the seized vessel? It's dealing with your enlingus, your straw man. They had captured the ship already. They captured his estate. He already contracted with them. So the judge, see, they speak in cryptic terminology as camouflage. So when the judge told her ship failed, they seized his vessel. Yeah. So I'm just kind of just sharing that real quick to give you a point of reference. I have some other information I'm going to go over. I have some notes that I've taken with me. This is action-packed information. Nobody else is really sharing this or teaching us the way that I'm doing. And big shout out to Yusuf El. He has some real good information over at his YouTube channel as well. Check out his info. Big shout out to Yusuf for sharing my video on the black card. Big shout out to you, Yusuf. You're doing a great job over there. I bought some of his webinars in the past. I purchased with High Frequency Radio, giving a donation. Real good brother that goes over a lot of the educational and very detailed as well. Now, when to reiterate to prove that these accounts, this so-called TDA secret account, whichever one you want to call it, private account or secret account, it's up to you, but it does exist, is I went over the PayPal information that the FRB was processing these accounts. It's not a coincidence that PayPal had their computer database set up to process these types of payments. It was going through before I heard allegedly the FBI put pressure on them to shut it down when it went too public, whatnot. But you also have something else to prove that these accounts exist. It's called the IRS master file. That printout, a friend of mine mentioned, he went downtown to one of the IRS offices and got a printout in Detroit somewhere, one of the main offices. And I heard about that years ago, where you could see what companies are trading your name, because some people were trying to claim that GMI Utility, the naysayers out there, that your social security number is not being traded. Now with that particular site, I'm not going to deal with that because I don't have any solid evidence to say that it is or it isn't. So I'm just trying to go over facts or things that I can prove right now. But in my belief, I'm of the opinion, and mind you, I'm just giving my opinion, that that site GMI Utility is a subsidiary of the DTC, that stands for the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. And I did type in my social at that site, and it appeared to be, keyword appears to be, other agencies and institutions trading the account, because it would list what's active and inactive, and you have to put it, you have to put your dash in, just like when you punch your social security number in the upper right hand corner. You have to include the dashes. I wasn't doing that. That's why it wasn't showing up at first. Then once someone told me to do that, and it allegedly shows the companies worldwide that are trading our QSIP, the auto tris, the numbers on the front. Well, actually, with the dashes, that's not the auto tris, stands for something else. Still similar, deals with automated tracking, identification numbers. Very briefly to go over, as I went into the history, you can go on Yahoo. This is public domain under the Fair Use Act. I showed previously why the original Social Security cards show account number at the top, and this is different formats that came out previously from some years ago. Well, people want to get into the semantics game, you know, that it is or it isn't, and I'm showing you actual detailed evidence that it is an account number, because certain naysayers were trying to say the numbers on the front were not an account number. And then some people were trying to say, in some instances, it's not used for identification purposes. And very recently, I was in an institution where they actually asked me for it for extra verification, and they used it as a form of identification. That just simply meant, when it says, some of them said not used for identification, was when people would go to the club or bars or certain places and they would need photo identification. But a friend of mine stated years ago, they had a school teacher when they were in 6th grade mentioned to them at the time that your social security number can be used for identification in case something happens to you or you die and they need to identify you. He was in middle school, and the teacher mentioned this. So you have to kind of pay attention to that, the slight differences, but it is an account number and it is a form of identification, So please keep that in mind. I also know a guy who can get a broker who can look up your QSIP for your not only your birth certificate, but from what I understand, your QSIP number on the back of your social security card, to see what it's trading at. To prove, just on a side note, you have to pay some money. It's not super expensive. I think it might be like $400 or $500. The lowest I've heard is like $200, but they have a specific purpose. Those numbers are not used just to be looking pretty, just sitting there for no reason. The numbers on the front of the Social Security card and the back, they serve a specific purpose, just as well as the birth certificate. And they both are securities instruments. Whether people say that they're a bond or QSIP, it's still a securities instrument, regardless of that. And I could have many elites and people, if they were to show themselves, they would confirm that with me. It is a type or form of a securities instrument that we can agree on. People get into the semantics game. Fourth point I'm going to make is I know of a person in the legal profession who knows how to successfully discharge payments from a closed checking account. Now, I would not recommend this to the average person but I'm proving how they keep these type of accounts hidden, because keep in mind, when you open up a bank account, they ask for your Social Security number. So that SSN number is still attached, because that account never closes. It stays in the Federal Reserve's record forever. I won't go into all the details, but you're using a certain side of the accounting ledger. You have accounts payable, accounts receivable. You have your debits and credits, and you have it's called double entry bookkeeping, for example. And there's a company called Payne and Weber is one of them, where they do the auditing for certain banks, and then you have another institution from London that comes over here and they do like an audit. And that's a specific purpose, because it's going, certain types of payments go on a different part of the payment ledger. It's where it's private. That's why I mentioned you have to study the accounting that's related to the business and law and finance department. They intersect with one another. You have accounts receivable, accounts payable, debits and credits, your assets and liabilities. I took accounting in high school and I took accounting in college. Even though that wasn't my major, I majored in business administration management, where I received my associate's degree. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Someone in the legal profession believe they were issued a P number, because not only lawyers at lower level, if you're a paralegal, they're issued P numbers. I was told that by a paralegal as well, but you also have other types of assistants as well. That's like at the lowest end, where they're like secretaries that work in the office, where they may not have finished all of their schooling, but they help assist the lawyers and paralegals with their paperwork. But this individual within the profession, without going into the details, was successful. I do have a source that confirmed with me that they were successfully able to use the checks off the closed accounts to discharge payments. But I won't go into the details. Certain information I don't share. I don't want you all to get yourselves into any trouble. You have to be advanced and know what you're doing, just like dealing with the TDAs, these secret accounts. You know, like Mike O'Brien, for example, he did a video and he warned all of his subscribers. You know, he didn't want people putting themselves in harm's way, getting reversals, and doing it constantly, because it could be costly, because some companies charge interest or charge a not sufficient funds fee. But it doesn't mean that these accounts don't exist. That because that paralegal, or the person that worked in the legal profession, that has been successful at utilizing that within this system, the elites, the way they set it up, they make you go through a paper fight where you have to be able to know how to enforce your instruments through an administrative procedure. And if you don't know, you're going to get railroaded, and you're going to have to pay reversal fees or not sufficient. But if you know what you're doing, you can take these people to small claims court. They just make us go through a more difficult process by blocking or hiding the application to get access to the black card, or to access your private account that's right on the Federal Reserve's website. I'm not going to say which type it is, because I did give a disclaimer. I'm not an official spokesperson for them or none of that. I'm just sharing this as a courtesy from my research, you know, but I'm just going over this to prove that this account exists, despite what gatekeepers and naysayers are saying on YouTube as well. And then those memos that came out are not totally accurate. But I'm not going to go into the detail, because it is a private account, and remember, public and private don't mix. It's a form of they don't want you to commingle. But I do feel, in my humble opinion, that they need to allow those of us who are awake, who study the information in this movement, to help us access our accounts, because I feel like, in my opinion, they have enough slaves within the system. You know, they have enough people who want to be brainwashed. But those of us who are trying to access our accounts, let us become free and just access our stuff and stop being a-holes But hey, that's neither here nor there. I'm not going to pontificate. My last point before I shut this section of the video down, because I'm doing this is like a three-part of a one-part video. I'm going to have to put this together. The last point, I know a guy whose payment to the IRS, it was for a state tax here in Michigan. It was stolen from him. He wrote out a personal check for a tax payment, and they didn't credit it to the amount he owed. That this institution was contracting with the Internal Revenue Service. They were a third party, just like they use third party debt collectors where different companies sell the debt to them, and then you have the third party debt collector call you up. This institution, these mofos here in Michigan, I think it's somewhere in the Lansing area, because he tracked them down. Somehow they stole his private check he wrote out from his regular public side bank account. Didn't even credit it to his account, to show you how wicked some of these gatekeepers and people are. So he found out, because they like to always give you a P.O. box. So he was like, I'm going to find out who they are. He found out where the address was at, went up there in person, and stated to them if they did not straighten this matter out, he was going to press charges and go after them to the fullest extent of the law. Lawsuit, baby. And they zeroed out his account. I kid you not. When he told me this is private, not sharing who he is, they zeroed out his account, and right on the spot. So you can't tell me they don't have an exemption account and this doesn't exist, for all those naysayers and gatekeepers out there. Now, shut it down right here. I want to thank you all for joining me. If you did take the time to watch this video, you can follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm working on an Instagram account. Don't have it yet. If you do like the type of work that I do, I am looking for people, but I'm looking to start mainly locally in my area, the greater Detroit, Michigan area. If you have a skill set in the legal profession, or you're an accountant and we can exchange information, there might be some information that I have that you don't have, where we're not charging each other. You want to assist with paperwork, because I'm mainly, for the time being, I receive a lot of inquiries, and I'm specifically looking for people who want to help assist, pour into the pot. But if you are interested, you can email me Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. Dorsey's Resource 2017 at gmail.com. Serious inquiries only, and I will try to get to them. There's so many people, so please forgive me if I'm unable to get to you. At least I'll try to give a response. I did receive some great responses from people. I do plan on reaching out to you, but like I say, I'm still on a plantation, as I call it, the 9-to-5 job, and I would have to do a whole separate video on that, how these jobs are used to keep us enslaved. But like I said, I'm getting ready to shut this video down, and I don't want to pontificate. I want to thank you guys for joining me at Dorsey's Resource. Once again, you can follow me on YouTube at Dorsey's Resource, on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource, and I'm on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. Don't forget to like and hit the bell at the bottom of the video to receive updates when I come out with newer videos. Make sure you hit that bell at the bottom. Thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, take care. Peace.